What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown City Geekcast. My name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, the one and only Matty B.
It's a heavy Star Wars week. Let's drink the blue milk, boys.
Ooh. Very nice, very nice. And making his return to the show, make a round of applause for the one and only General Kenobi.
Hello there. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, no problem, sir. No problem. We had to have you for this Star Wars centric episode that we're doing tonight. If
Well,
you're
I'm
in the chat,
excited.
we want to hear from you guys. Say what's up. You know what? We hope you guys had a great Halloween. We've had one hell of a month of October. We ended it on a bang in my house. We had a great time. We want to know what your family theme was. Tell me what the theme was. Ours was Ours was the movie franchise Halloween. And then my daughter was Elsa from Frozen. You can't change her mind, so she does what she wants. But let us know what your family's Halloween theme was. Let us know what your costume was. Drop it in the chat. We want to hear from you guys. And as I already mentioned, it's going to be a Star Wars kind of night. We're going to start off our discussion with an amazing series, short form or limited, whatever you want to call it, Tales of the Jedi on the Disney Plus streaming service. If you haven't seen it, I don't think there's too many well, ugh. If you haven't seen it, we're going to be spoiling a little bit, so we'll give you a few minutes to just hang around. But when we get into the nitty gritty of it all, be sure to pause this video, go check out Tales of the Jedi, and come on back. But fantastic stories from some characters that we all know very well. Three episodes that revolved around Ahsoka Tano, and three episodes that revolved around Count Dooku, which was a major surprise in all of our eyes. But I think for now, I don't know if we're going to go through these one by one. I kind of want to summarize the three and the three a little bit. So maybe we can start with Dooku's a little bit. Real quick, just try and overview some of these. The three episodes that focus on Dooku are all about sort of his turn to the darkness, the failures of the Jedi and the Senate, the corruption that he witnesses, the people in the Republic that suffer. And so you see him turning for essentially what might be valid reasons, but the actions that he takes do not justify the means. And the final episode of Count Dooku's story ends with him mourning Qui-Gon and then ultimately um, slaying Yaddle, which, if we were all wondering where she was in the movies, that's where her story ends. Kenobi, I'm going to have to start with you, sir. Count Dooku's story, going into the psyche and seeing this character arc over these three short episodes, just your general thoughts about it.
Sure. So just actually in general for this whole, all of these shorts is they're showing us stuff that we kind of already knew, right? We sort of already are familiar with these stories, but we haven't seen them, right? We haven't seen them, portrayed really. And Count Dooku is no exception. I think it's a perfect example. We know that, by the little tidbits that we got here on episode 2, is that the movie episode 2, I mean, Attack of the Clones, that, he was once a Jedi, he became disillusioned with the Republic, and he became a political idealist, right? That's about
Right.
all we know. But now, like you said, we see that progression, right? And in just 3 episodes, I gotta tell you, by that third episode, before he fought Yale, I was all in. I was like, dude, I get you. Like, I see it. I see your disappointment. I see your despair. I see your sadness, at losing Qui-Gon. Dude, I mean, and you're like, yeah, it's an animated show, but they do such a good job at portraying some of those feelings, in a very short amount of time, honestly. I was all in on it. I was like, dude, what else was he going to do? What what options were left to him? And he even says it, right? When Yaddle is like, can you let go of, we are going spoilers, right? Because
Yeah, go for it.
okay, when she says, can you let go of Qui-Gon now that he's dead? And he just like half turns around. It's like, well, what choice do I have? Right? And he just walks off. And I was like, like, oh my lord, like that's it. That's he's done. He's and he explicitly says it. I basically betrayed everybody that I know. I've changed. I've done everything. To try to make the galaxy a better place. I think that in his own twisted way, he really was trying, to help the people. So yeah, like I said, it's stuff that we sort of knew, but to see it, to see it happen, to see it evolve, from episode, what is it? They start off with 2, 3, and then 4 of Tales of
Yeah.
the Jedi. Uh, Amazing. I mean, give me a whole series just of that. Honestly, I'll eat it up. Like it was good.
Bryce is in the chat saying, "What's up, geeks? What's going on, Bryce?" And Legacy of Nerds as he's signing in from work. We appreciate you, brother.
Oh,
Make that
amen.
money.
Yes, sir.
Maddie B, I know how big of a Star Wars fan you are, sir. This must have just been incredible seeing this, as we describe progression from light to darkness for Count Dooku.
It filled in holes and questions we've had for 20 years. And again, Kenobi had even referenced this a little bit of it's things we knew, but I can look at a hole and say, boy, that's a hole, or you could just fill it up for me. And that's what Tales of the Jedi did. It just filled in that hole. I knew it was a hole. I kind of knew what it would take to fill it, but I just seeing it was really comforting to me. And those, I mean, Dooku and watching Qui Gon watch him in that first sequence we had with kind of a younger Dooku and a younger Qui Gon, and him dealing with that political leader who was mistreating his folks, and Qui Gon sort of taking a sense of maybe the way the Jedi and the code and all this stuff doesn't really help us. And maybe there's better ways of solving things instead of just sticking to the code. And that leads into how Qui Gon is moving forward and how he is as we know him to be, as sort of not, I wouldn't say he's a gray Jedi by any means. I think he's definitely a Jedi over anything else, but he definitely sees the political errors of the Jedi. And another thing that this series did for me, and we'll get into Andor later, but just a quick point on it, Andor is claiming they're painting a clear line of the Empire's bad. And we haven't gotten a lot of that in Star Wars, honestly. The line's always kind of blurred there, depending on your perception of it. But Andor is painting a clear picture of Empire bad. But what Tales of the Jedi kind of brought back into us a little bit during this time of only getting that type of content is there was errors in the Jedi's ways too, and there was errors in how some of that was being done. So the contrast of those two, watching Tales of the Jedi and then watching this newest episode of Andor, I thought it was a really cool way of looking at both sides of it. So, but yeah, I loved it.
Let's see here. It's great to see, sort of like you had already mentioned, and it's not like Master Dooku was bad from the start. It's things that helped to turn his thought process, and yet even when he's doing the Emperor's bidding, he's doing things that he thinks are just necessary to bring peace. Like he actually still really believes in what he's doing, and it's for a good cause. That helps to blur the lines a little bit of lightness and dark, and good and evil, and that's never a bad thing when you can sort of empathize a little bit with some of the actions that he's doing. It adds more layers to it. It makes it more complex. It's not just like, hey, you guys are the bad guys. Everything you say and do is horrible, and the Jedi, all they do is good things. Of course, if the Jedi are just doing nothing but following orders, orders can be corrupt. Agendas could be corrupt at times, and so Dooku's able to kind of see those things happen firsthand. And I love that Qui Gon is known as the Great Jedi because his master helped to kind of mold this Padawan to seeing two sides of everything and not just following orders, but questioning whether those orders are actually doing good for normal, everyday civilians and citizens. Um, this this episode 2, Justice, where a senator's son is kidnapped, and then this firefight ensues. They literally fire upon Jedi who they're supposed to be teaming with, the senator and his soldiers, and it's just like, it's intense, and it has, that's one of the main elements. Who wouldn't want to turn their back on the republic when you just have senators or people in place of political power, just firing upon you and not giving you the benefit of the doubt? It's enough to want to change and turn anybody, and not turn them all the way evil, but at least start casting some doubt on whether or not what they're doing is any good at all. So I loved it. It was fantastic. Legacy nerds in here, still at work. It just feels like Yaddle's death or disappearance after the death of Qui-Gon and Maul would have raised a lot of red flags. Yes. Let's see.
But
Let's see.
there's not a long time until stuff really breaks down. And if Jedi were to go and investigate, Palpatine would have probably been good about kind of maneuvering things around to make it difficult for whoever was investigating to figure it out. It probably, you could assume it would take them a few years to actually kind of figure out what happened. Um, I think it sort of falls in line. I don't think it raises too many red flags.
He says, unless they address this in the future short stories, I feel this is a big gap. I guess it could be, but I want to say that the Emperor is just so damn cunning. Let's be honest. I mean, the whole
Yeah,
prequels were
he covered
about
it up.
him masking everything that he was doing, being basically a sleeper agent in the government. I wouldn't put it past him to come up, or Dooku to come up with a way to explain the disappearance that would have passed for the Jedi Council. Not completely like fool them, but just been like, oh, okay, that's probable or passable. I mean, Sifo Dyas was
Yep.
already missing by this point, and yet like they didn't question that, right? Like he went missing, and yet there wasn't this big old like hunt for Cephodius
Right.
to find out what happened to him. So I think it kind of falls in line with
Yeah,
just what they're doing.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, honestly, Yaddle's been a character for quite a long time, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we've known her since episode one, literally. So the gap has been there, right? We're just, shedding some new light on what actually happened. That's not to say they won't go back and like we said, maybe fill some of those gaps. And maybe, they might explain how they got away with murdering one of, a former High Council member, by the way. Um, Jedi right on Coruscant, which is crazy. Uh, but like y'all mentioned, that just goes to show you what a good job Darth Sidious, for soon to be Emperor Palpatine, uh, is doing. Right, like he has been planning this for decades, right? And the Jedi are just eating it all up. Like they have no idea. Uh, One thing I will say about the shorts that I wanted to bring up is like you said, we get like we don't get the clear cut good and evil, right? One thing that I was thinking about on that second episode where Dooku goes with Mace Windu to pick up the body of the murdered Jedi, and at the end, that murdered Jedi used to be on the council, right? And so they give up that spot, they give it up to Windu, and Duke is like, "Hey man, like, did you know that was gonna happen? Like,
Oh
it,
man,
it,
yeah.
it just plays too well, right? Like, I'm kind of not feeling that." And Windu's like, "No, no, like, I was super surprised, like, and like you were there with me, when we got the mission and stuff." But I was like, dude, like, they're making me doubt Mace Windu, and don't get me wrong, I always thought he was arrogant, right? Like, I always thought that was his flaw, because he was a good fighter and he was powerful, uh, he was one of the top Jedi at the time for sure. Uh, but I was like, whoa, like, was there something else, like going on? Like, that's kind of crazy. Again, that they get you thinking about stuff that you sort of already knew or thought you knew, And I think that just, that's a sign of a good story, right? That when it gets you thinking beyond what you just saw.
Hopefully, they do further stories of Anakin's young Padawan years. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Although, we got a lot of that right in Clone Wars already. So how much more could they expand on? But I really like seeing how much of a, what do you call him in, so we'll get to the Ahsoka episode later. Remind me, what do you call a Jedi who's training a Padawan who's not a master? Because Anakin's never a master,
No, he
right?
got grant. No, he was granted the rank of master, but wasn't invited to sit on the council.
Ah, that's what,
That
right.
that was
That's
the
right.
exact line from Samuel L. Jackson. We will grant you the rank of master, but you can't sit on the council, and that's what spun everything into a spiral there. But speaking of Samuel L. Jackson, what that episode proved to me was that Mace Windu is the biggest wet blanket in the Star Wars universe. Mace
What are
Windu
you talking
sucks.
about?
Mace Windu sucks. I hate Mace Windu, and he's just a wet blanket, man. It everything is back to the code, all about this. Like Mace Windu, I love Samuel L. Jackson. I like the purple lightsaber. I like everything, but Mace Windu as a character, he's a wet blanket, man. And
The
actually, a
dude
lot
killed
of the stuff,
Django. The
uh,
dude killed Django.
but we're acting like Django. I mean, here's the problem with Star Wars. Once you introduce Jedi, that doesn't matter. Taking out Django is nothing to a master Jedi. I mean, it's literally nothing. He could take out every Mando. I mean, that's all I'm saying. Is Mace Windu is an incredible fighter, so he took out Django. Cool, whatever. Um, but Mace Windu is a wet blanket, and that episode kind of proved it. And Dooku was saying the same thing. Dooku's like, "Dude, you're supposed to have my back, and you didn't even tell me this stuff." Mace Windu's being very sneaky on the side. It just goes to show you that Dooku kind of had a reason for doing what he was doing, and that's what you were
Yep.
talking about earlier, Ted. He was it's just a classic trope. It's just an anti-hero. It's someone you're not supposed to root for, but you are rooting for because you believe in the cause.
The real quick, Legacy Nerd says, "Yeah, Palpatine manipulating Yaddle's death is reasonable. I just want someone to say it or for it to be shown for us.
I
Could
think
be.
it has been shown, right? It's shown
Yeah.
that he
Here's
can
There's
manipulate.
here's my
there,
thing. The prequels are so underrated, and I've always been talking about how much I love the prequels, especially in like multiple watches and after that, because when you watch them back to back and you really outline the Sidious's plan, like from beginning to end, it's genius.
yep.
It's super genius. I wouldn't be surprised if Dooku is getting sent on these missions by Senator Palpatine. Like
Right.
Senator Palpatine is probably making these scenarios happen. He's helping to put these people, these civilians, in harm's way. He's ruining sort of the landscape, their environment, their towns. They're in ruin. They're suffering, and then he sends Dooku over to go investigate where the senator's kid is, or he's helping to manipulate all these things just so he can turn a Jedi, and just so he can turn Dooku. One day he said, "You know what? I'm gonna need a I'm gonna need a Padawan. I'm gonna need a number two. I think I can turn Dooku," and he just starts moving all these chess pieces in order to manipulate Dooku. When we see these episodes, and we're seeing the emotions that Dooku's going through, and this what this transformation that he's going through. But if we find out in the next set of episodes that Senator Palpatine helped to manipulate these events, I'm like, yeah, I believe it. He's that kind of guy. He would go that far
For
in order
sure,
to
and
turn
it's
somebody.
but that's in the episode too, and it's also known to us that during this time when we get to that episode, Palpatine is having secret meetings with his apprentices, and we know that he's meeting with Maul on a different time. He's meeting with Dooku on a different time. He realized that Dooku was the best person to be the second in the rule of two of Sith, and that he was the most capable of carrying out what he was looking at. And then killed the closest person to Qui Gon while also getting rid of his other apprentice, which is Darth Maul, in basically one battle. He took care of both of those, taking away someone that Dooku cares about, the only person Dooku cares about, meaning that he can
Yep.
only be loyal to him. And it just, you can see him setting that up and setting that up and setting that up. And the dialogue between them
Yeah.
and Palpatine's manipulation in that episode, that's actually my favorite part, is every time Dooku is trying to make a decision, Palpatine gives an order. And he's waiting to see if he's going to take it or not. And it's actually really, really incredible.
Yeah.
That episode alone makes the whole thing worth watching, is
Agreed.
because that, I mean, that is deep,
When
deep
he
Star Wars
goes,
lore there.
when Yaddle, shows up right at the secret meeting between Dooku and Palpatine's just there, like turns like Caesar, and he's like, "Oh, so you betrayed me, right?" But he's super chilled about it, right? Because
Hmm.
to your point, he knows Duke is not betraying him, right? Like
No,
there is no doubt in his mind anymore that
no.
he has Dooku completely surrendered to him. Like, but so I love it because he just stands there. He's like, "Oh, so I am betrayed." And like he doesn't whip out a lightsaber, he doesn't try to escape. He just stands there, and the Duke is like, no, 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 like I didn't betray you. Like let me take care of all this stuff. And there's the smallest like smirk, on Palpatine's face, and I'm like, dude, he had no doubt, like he knew exactly what was going on. And I love that. To your point, he's been working Dooku probably for decades, like Ted mentioned. So he is 100% sure that that's it. That's his number two now. And he even says it, right? Hey, you lost an apprentice, I lost an apprentice, right? So,
Mhm.
and all of this is for the greater good, right? Like you had to make a sacrifice, and so did I. So, don't come crying at me that,
But wasn't it so poetic that he was literally sticking to the rule of two
right,
Yep.
as a Sith and saying, basically Palpatine saying, I chose you because Maul's gone. So
right,
there can only be two of us.
right,
And then Palpatine in the same swoop was able to take out the only thing that mattered to Dooku. And
exactly.
so then he got full. I mean, that's crazy. And when
Yeah,
it comes to the Yaddle cover up, at the time right now of the Jedi, and they're starting to realize that, politically, some things are moving right now, and it would be a really big loss for them if they were to suddenly lose a master
right.
Jedi to something like this. I don't put it past the Jedi to have covered this up
Yeah.
um, during this time to make sure that it didn't get out, because they didn't want to be seeming as taking a loss in this time politically.
Well, and they even said it, right? Yeah, on what was it, episode 2, when they're like, hey, Cypher Diaz placed an order for the clone army, this
Hmm.
and that, and they're like, oh yeah. And I think I forget if it's Mace Windu or Yoda that says we should inform that the Senate that our
Yeah.
ability to wield the Force has diminished because we didn't see any of this happen, right? And then they're like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes right there, bro. Like, we don't want to say
Yeah.
that right now because we already got enough enemies as it is. And if we tell them,
If we show
we're
we're weak, we're
it's like
done.
we're weaker, that's it. Like we are
They
out of
literally
here.
said that
Yeah,
verbatim almost.
exactly. And so to your point, yeah, I would not put it past them to be like, hey, you know what? We had, Yaddle, the only other Yoda we knew back then, who was on the High Council. She stepped down, right? So it's not like she was not known at all. Um, and so, it's like a big celebrity all of a sudden, you lost
You
it and she
you
got
can't you
murdered.
can't
Like,
take that loss.
exactly.
You just politically, you just move past it and try to figure
Exactly.
out what's going on.
Yeah, and to your point, I wouldn't put it past like Palpatine to say like, well, here's my 2 cents, right? We can say
Hmm.
that I sent her on a very top secret mission that not even the
Yeah,
Jedi High Council knew about, and she died saving like this
yeah.
whole system from like
It,
an explosion, right, or
it's
something like that.
very, yeah. To me, it doesn't raise any, because I know so much about the politics of how the show works. It doesn't
Yeah,
raise any red flags for me, because
yeah,
during this time is when the most manipulation and corruption happens. It's
yeah,
directly
exactly.
during this time.
Yep.
Or what about what General Kenobi just mentioned? She stepped down from the council. Like how are they to know if she's missing, if she steps down and she's probably just like, you know what, guys, I need to take a mental health break or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go on vacation. It's been too much. We
It's
lost
a
Qui Gon.
it's a quiet quit.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
quiet. She's quiet quitting.
She's quite quitting, yeah.
That's what it
And I
is.
thought it was a little bit sad, right? Because she even tells Dooku, right? It's like, hey, no, like I'm actually on your side, right? Like I am not,
Yeah.
happy with the way things are going either. She says it, right? I stepped down from the council,
Mhm.
as in, she didn't verbatimly say it, but as in like protest, right? Because I'm not happy with the way things are going, so I gave up my seat because it's like pointless. But Duke is like, yeah, no, that's not nearly enough, right? Like we're
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
past that.
And one thing I really liked was in that episode specifically. We keep talking about that episode because that's like the
Dude,
most
that's dude,
important
that
second
that
one.
episode is,
But
yeah,
he maintains his ideology. So Dooku is not radical. He didn't just suddenly change this way because he keeps his ideology from that episode until he's having his dialogue with Kenobi when he's trapped in the prequels. He
yep,
has the exact same ideology. Nothing about his political stances have changed whatsoever. And he's
exactly,
trying to convince Kenobi. And because he looks at him as a grandson almost,
right,
it makes that prequel scene mean that much more too,
agreed,
because he's literally trying to say, hey, he tells him about Palpatine, he tells him about everything, and says, hey, that one episode tied so many things in
yep,
together that Dave Filoni deserves any award. Just hand him the franchise,
yeah,
please.
Please.
agreed. Let's just
Yeah.
do that,
Do
dude. I
it.
mean, it
Absolutely.
starts off with Dooku erasing Kamino, right?
Yes.
And
Which
and
is
not
sick.
only that,
Which
yeah,
is
which is
great.
already like, but he even uses the passcode, like the login information for Sifo Diaz. I'm like, bro, like,
Mhm.
what else do you want? Like, it's all right there. Like,
It's right
you,
back to episode 2.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
I
just tied
mean,
it up with episode one, which there was always sort of a big disconnect because
yeah,
of the time gap, right? I mean, it's a big
yeah.
gap in there, 10 years if I remember correctly. Uh, but in like a couple of scenes, this dude just like brought them, beautifully together. Like,
And
And
did you
and
notice?
it's a reference to episode 2, but he's deleting the records before the end of episode 1. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that shows you just how long the plan is
yep,
is going into
which
place.
takes you right back to Obi-Wan walking into Yoda training the Padawans,
yeah,
and Lost Planet Master
yeah,
Kenobi has, and they're all in there, and then he says, the center of gravity is where you're going to find your missing planet, and all of that tied back in. It was insane
exactly.
how
I loved
well
it. I mean,
that was handled.
I'm gonna get back to
yeah,
the comments, and then we'll get on to Ahsoka's episodes. Brett says, "So did the Jedi help create the Empire through inaction and their own hubris?" Um, it's not completely clear, right? And Legacy Nerd says it was the opposite. Like, um, Palpatine's plan is so flawless that he's using the Jedi to help create his army and take over the entire galaxy. Like, he's manipulating and using the weakness of his enemy in order to get what he wants.
yep,
And it's beautiful. It's perfect. I'm still of the mindset that Palpatine is in somewhat the reason that Anakin exists. I know that that's not like huge, but that is kind of implied in Episode 3. I think is when
yeah,
they're having the opera scene and having that discussion. So I
yeah.
think there's books that talk about it, but yeah.
In the legends now, not non-canon. Yeah,
Mhm.
Palpatine's master uh influenced the
Yep.
midichlorians to create life, right?
Right.
But he kept that creation hidden, of course, because he's like, hey, this is my number two now. And but Palpatine was already pretty much trained, right? And so of course Palpatine turns on him, etc. But he never found out where Anakin was, basically, or he didn't know about Anakin specifically. He knew like some being out there existed, that was this powerful. But again, I don't know if they're gonna go that route anymore. That again, that's just from the novels, and they're not official anymore. So I don't know if they're ever gonna double down on that.
Probably not. Probably not. Legacy Nurse is exactly how Palpatine asked for Anakin to go to the planet to get Grievous, knowing they would send someone else because he didn't want to agree with
Yeah.
Palpatine. Yeah, he's always getting what he wants
Yep.
without showing his hand. He always
Exactly.
holds his cards really close to the chest, and he's always getting exactly what he needs without saying it, which is just diabolical. If they sent Anakin, he would have not succumbed at that time and that way to the dark side. And furthermore, the death, I'm gonna use quotes, the death of Mace Windu in episode 3, Ian McDermott has already said from this past celebration, last year's, maybe it was last year's, that when Mace basically has him dead to rights, he's begging for his life and all that to Anakin to save him. That's all just playing possum. Like
Yep.
Ian pretty much confirmed all of that. It's him playing possum in order to gain sympathy from Anakin, and then Anakin takes action and all that. But if the Emperor's sitting there like, I'm gonna kill this Mace Windu, blah blah blah, like Anakin's not really gonna jump at the
Yep.
chance to save him. So yes, everything he does is for a reason. It has intentions. There's always something hidden behind it, and he's just a mastermind, one of the best villains of all time.
Agree.
Let's see here. Brett says Palpatine knew the Jedi would interfere in politics and saw it as a huge weak point to manipulate and bend the galaxy to his will. While doing it, he used Dooku, Maul, and others as a distraction so he could watch the Jedi run like rats through his maze. Yes, beautifully said.
Yep.
Absolutely. Rick's in the chat. Rick Kane, Sharks super fan, and says, "So sorry, I still haven't watched Andor." Hey, look, I'm letting it slide this time, man. But next week, get caught up. I believe in you, Rick. Legacy Nerd says, "I make opposite about Council and Master." I meant opposite about Council and Master.
I think he's talking about Anakin. Anakin was given a council seat, but not the
Yeah, yeah,
rank of
yeah.
master.
There you go. Yeah, opposite of that. Awesome. So we are gushing all over these Master Dooku episodes. They're
Oh man.
fantastic, and I still think there's more to it. And if they decide to show us more, then great. If not, then I'm totally satisfied with what they gave us.
Yep.
Uh, Go over to the Ahsoka episodes. The 3 Ahsoka episodes that we got were just as powerful, and it started off with a really kind of dark story of her as a 1 year old infant going on a hunting trip with her mother, and they're attacked by this like saber tooth like beast, and this thing carries her off and is about to turn her into a snack uh, when she basically charms the beast or uses her what they assume are Jedi like powers to help control its emotions and take her back to her parents in the village. And then we fast forward to when she's Padawan in training under Anakin. And the second episode I love because it also tied not to the movies per se a little bit, but it tied really well to the end of the Clone Wars series. Um, we see her training, and Anakin is brutal, putting her in these very difficult, challenging training situations with Captain Rex and a bunch of clones, basically taking her down with stun blast. And it's great because it all ties into the end of Clone Wars. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, I guess, but there's just this great ending with Ahsoka. I mean, look, she's alive in the Mandalorian series, so with Ahsoka and Rex basically doing whatever they can to survive those situations around Order 66. So all that training that Anakin is basically training her for in these very difficult scenarios, and the whole time I'm thinking, oh man, is this basically what saved her life for around Order 66? And it was basically those severe training conditions which saved her life around the end of episode 3 in Order 66. So, absolutely love that. And then the very last episode is her basically in hiding. She's a farmer now. She's rarely using her powers. She's trying to stay off the grid and keep cover. But secrets get out, and she's basically betrayed by someone else in the town. And when an inquisitor shows up, who's this badass looking inquisitor, probably the most badass I've ever seen, he torches the place, and she makes quick work of him. I mean, she is the boss we all knew she was, and it was amazing to see. Three great episodes. Loved them very much. Manny B, your thoughts about Ahsoka's stories?
Well, first, I mean, I may be a little biased because I love Ahsoka so much. I love her character, and I love the first episode. Although the Sabretooth CGI was very clunky, we'll give
Yep.
him a pass on that, but it's true. But we saw a unique gift that she had, and that was the ability to sort of tame and speak to animals. And we
Right.
also see that in Anakin in episode 2, I believe, in the Colosseum, where he's able to use the same sort of force ability to tame whatever that was that he was riding. I forget the name of it. But so we're drawing parallels already to Anakin, born very powerful, has the sort of same ability, and escapes with that ability. And then we get to that episode where we have the crew trying to stun and blast her, and Anakin's very difficult with her, but he says to her, "Hey, I'm this hard on you because I care this much about you. I need you to be able to get out of anything. And the only thing that I can do to show you that I love you is to let you be trained and be the best that you can be." And I thought that that was beautiful. And then the ending scene, though, the last movie, the show, I should say, or episode, I thought that could have just been the first scene of the Kenobi series, honestly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's literally the same thing. So I thought they could have given us a little bit more for Ahsoka's third episode, but the first two I thoroughly enjoyed.
I mean, I wonder if it's gonna help sort of have some connective tissue to the Ahsoka series that we all know we're getting pretty soon. Um,
Probably. I
Hopefully,
mean,
it
It's gonna
ties
be
back
so
to
good.
that.
yeah. I mean, it's Filoni, right? I mean, and that's his baby. So I would be surprised if there's not. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Legacy Nerd says, "I bet she left at the end to grab Andor." Ooh,
Yeah, there you go. Bust him out.
they could tie all these, couldn't they? Those
Yeah,
crazy
timelines.
wizards.
Timeline's
Yeah.
about right.
Ezra Bridger connects with animals also. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah,
wait
there
to
was
see
that
Ezra
episode on
live action
Rebels
too.
where yeah,
Hmm.
well, he supposedly he's done with the filming right up on Ahsoka, but they also say they extended the offer for him to come over on his own show, right? So again,
Star Wars
it
fans eating
just
good.
oh yeah, yeah. I enjoyed a lot the Ahsoka episodes. That first episode, they actually showed it at Celebration when
Nice.
Filoni was there. Yeah, so I saw it with Filoni in the room. And and I mean, again, it just makes sense, right? But he did tell. Okay, so he sort of introduced Tales of the Jedi as he was just bored out of his mind on a flight. I think it was a long flight. I think he was flying somewhere, pretty far, like Tokyo or something like that. So he had a lot of time on the plane, and he said he just started scribbling down. But his original, I guess, story or his original, scribbles were about Plo Koon finding Ahsoka, right? So he was sort of hashing out that story, and then he sort of got it to a point. I think his agent or publicist, whatever the proper term is, saw those, and she was like, "Hey, you got something good here." He's like, "Well, they're just kind of like to keep me busy, right? Like in between flights and stuff." And she's like, "Well, I think we should make something out of it." And he's like, "Hey, like, okay, go find me the money, and then we'll talk, right?" And so he's like, well, he's like, maybe I shouldn't have said anything because literally like a month later, she's like, okay, I got the funding. You need to make more of these. And so he was like, oh crap. Uh, and so, and he did mention, for this first episode, he decided to change the story into still sort of an origin story for Ahsoka, but he decided to take it more on the family side, right? And so that's why we got to see her parents, her village, stuff like that. I still want to see that story with Plo Koon. Okay, I still want to know. I'm hoping those get added into the next batch of Tales of the Jedi. Which, let's be honest, we all know we're gonna get at some point, right? I mean, I'll be very surprised if there's no more Tales of the Jedi. Um, and so I want to see that that story again. We know it happened. It's just again the matter of seeing how it happened. Uh, the the second episode of Ahsoka, where she's training, it's got all these little like hints, of course, again, Filoni, just playing with our emotions. That very first training session with the clones, right? The one that brings her down the very first time is Jesse,
Jesse.
which later becomes the ARC Trooper Jesse, who's leading the 501st during Order 66, right? On that Venator Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, dude, like, you're basically telling us, right? Like, uh, she is training against the very people that will actually try to kill her, in a couple of years. So I just thought that was cool, right? And how he goes like super casual, like, oh, sorry, Commander, like I knocked you out, I thought that was, just those little things, right?
But you see it at
Uh,
the end, right? He takes her into custody, and
yeah,
like you see like the flip of that. I thought that
exactly.
was that mirror image of that was
Yeah.
perfectly executed to me. I thought that
And
was insane.
all I will say is this year has been a good year for the mullet Kenobi. Okay, finally got to see it again. We saw it on the flashback on the Kenobi show, episode 2 era,
Yep.
and now we saw it animated. Which again, I always thought that was the proper look for Kenobi when the Clone Wars TV show started. But I won't nitpick. By the time Ahsoka got there, he didn't have it anymore. So I know somebody out there is saying, well, how come he had it now when she was, doing her exams and stuff? So they went, backwards. I don't care. I just like to see it. All right. Mullet Kenobi all the way. So I
There you
enjoyed
go.
that part too. And, the cherry on top was seeing Caleb Doom, right? Just watch Ahsoka do backflips and, take out droids like it was nothing and him getting all excited. Again, it's just those little things, right? That did not need to be there, but it's so awesome that they actually are.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that second episode was really cool, in the sense that we know where it was leading up to again. So in terms of the story, we didn't really get like a breakthrough story, like a shocking, adding to the lore. But again, it's just seeing it, right? It's just knowing that Anakin actually set her up for success during his own, you know, dark times, like during
Betrayal.
his own betrayal. And the third episode, it's funny you mentioned that about the Kenobi show because, as you were saying, right, she's trying to hide her powers and stuff. And as soon as she used the Force, to save that one girl from being crushed, it got back to the lines on Kenobi. The Inquisitor saying, it's like, it's really easy to spot a Jedi. They have this itch to help, right? And they,
There you go.
it only takes so long for them to scratch it, and that's when you're gonna know that you have found one, right? And so I was like, man, that's just so true. I love that Inquisitor. He looked freaking dope. He sounded really cool too. And then, as I'm sure everybody noticed, he recognized her like almost right away, right? He's like, whoa, 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 they're supposed to be dead. And then he's like, oh man, I'm getting a reward for Ahsoka Tano, right? So who I okay, so what I thought was gonna happen when she slashes his face, I guess, his helmet.
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna reveal, like Barris Ophi or somebody, right, that sort of known that knew her from her Jedi days. But then, he just like tumbles down, and we don't get to see what was, underneath
Yeah,
the
to,
mask.
to me, I thought that was kind of weird because because we talk about the Kenobi series and you see Kenobi's obsessive nature. No, sorry, Darth Vader's obsessive
Yeah,
nature about Kenobi. I figured he would have that same obsession about Ahsoka Tano. So I'm thinking that like if the Inquisitor were to bring a dead Ahsoka Tano back to Darth Vader, I think it would be a little pissed off. I think it'd be like,
yeah,
hey, this is one of those that I'm supposed to deal with.
right.
And because I think those two specifically would be one of those that an inquisitor can't just hop in and take care of. Like you have to report back to Vader on this one a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing I was gonna ask, and maybe my memory is not great, but had we seen how they don't necessarily deflect, but how they dissolve the stun blast, the little rings with the lightsabers before? I was trying to think if we've seen, an energy ring, hit a lightsaber before, and I couldn't come up with the scene. So I'm not sure if that's the first time we've actually seen it.
I
Yeah, I
think
can't
it
recall
may have
either.
happened in the early video games,
Okay,
from the prequels, but no, I don't. I can't think of anything on screen. But if you could
right?
deflect a blaster, I would assume you could take out the ring. It was sick though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was cool to watch.
Oh yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think my favorite part was when one takes her down, and there's still like two and three that like hit her just for good measure, as she's coming down. I
Yeah,
thought
that
that was
one time when she gets hit like 3 times before hitting the ground, I was like, "Oh
yeah
my
before hitting
god,
the
this poor
ground.
thing."
Yeah.
I didn't know where they
Yeah.
were gonna go with it, and instead of showing her like sort of completing the training or overcoming this challenge, instead they just fast forward to
Yeah.
one of the final episodes of the Clone Wars. If anybody hasn't seen the Clone Wars and you fell off or whatever else, you need to go back. You need to finish it. And I understand there's like 1,000 episodes, but the final season is just some of the best Star Wars content out
Agreed.
there. And the final episodes are powerful, so powerful that it's impossible to not want to watch it.
Yeah.
Rudy's in the chat saying, "What's up? What's going on, Rudy?"
Hey. Hey.
Legacy Nerd says, yes, Kanan was there.
Yep.
And he also says he made this board. I bet
Dude. Yeah.
Mandalorian came to him while he was on the toilet. Oh,
Yeah,
I
dude.
love it. Depending if that specific Inquisitor knew Vader was Anakin, I think Reba knew because she was there as a kid. Yeah, this could have
Yeah.
also been another kid, potentially, another
Yeah.
youngling,
Another
if you
youngling. Yeah.
will. That's not out of the realm of possibility. And then finally, Reva, not Reba McIntyre.
Reba
Yes, no, not
McEntire.
her. Although Reba McIntyre as an Inquisitor, I'd pay to see that. Just saying.
Yeah. Hey.
All I'm
Hey.
saying is, if an Inquisitor brought back a dead Ahsoka Tano body to Darth Vader, that Inquisitor would be dead, guaranteed,
Ooh, you
guaranteed.
might not be wrong. You
I
might
mean,
not
Yeah.
be wrong.
he's like, wait, because and the Inquisitor made sure that he told her he knew who she was,
Yeah. That's the
and
thing, right? Yeah. Like
and
you said.
I mean, I think that Vader would be a little pissed if either one of those bodies showed up. If a Kenobi body shows up and an Ahsoka Tano body shows up,
Right.
Vader is gonna be pissed.
Dude, I enjoyed that they inserted her into the Padme, funeral.
That was, oh
Wow.
my gosh, what a powerful scene too.
Dude, I was like, why are you putting me through this again? I
And
can't. I,
Bale,
can't- I
and
can't.
Bale
Yeah,
being just
right, Bell.
Bale.
Yeah, yeah. I love the way he was, talking to her while talking to the clones. Really,
Mhm.
he's like, yeah. So if you need anything,
Let
you
me
call
know.
me. Yeah, and the clones are like, okay. He's
But
like, I
that and
guess.
that wraps back around in the last episode, which
Exactly.
I also really loved.
Yeah.
He can tie so many little knots.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's very good at that.
And somebody was saying I haven't. Okay, so I haven't read the Ahsoka novel, the one that's already canon. It was one of the first, I think, publications under Disney. But somebody was saying that encounter with the Inquisitor, it was something about it didn't match up or it didn't happen before, or something like that. So, uh, again, I'm not sure, but I liked it. I like I said, that Inquisitor I think was the number one figure that I want now. Like I kind of want a Black
Oh
Series of
man,
that.
But
Like
his head was kind of like deflated at the end. It looked really
yeah,
that's
yeah, it
what's
was weird.
interesting.
So
That's what's interesting.
weird.
You don't know what he was. He
exactly.
maybe wasn't a creature at all. Maybe he
Yeah.
was more
The
bionic
deflation I thought
or
was
something.
odd,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and like I said, I kept hoping that we saw somebody that we sort of knew, right, from Clone Wars, like underneath the mask. But again, it was cool, and again, wrapping back to the Kenobi show, lightsaber less fighting, right, against the lightsaber.
mhm.
So force using uh over a lightsaber, right? Which I'm all for it. I liked it. It makes sense too. I mean,
The scene where she takes him down, grabs the light, just
yep,
all right. I'm done here because I'm
exactly,
strongest, and you knew she was strongest because of the last episode you watched with her, and you knew she was just as bad as she could be.
yeah,
There
I
you
exactly.
go.
can't wait for her series. I cannot wait. It's gonna be lit, and I hope Luke is in there too, Because what an
Yeah.
interesting dynamic. Your father
Oh
taught
man.
me,
Yeah.
and you beat your father,
Exactly.
and so that parallel between those two is magic. I hope we see a little bit of him. We'll see.
Yeah, dude. I mean, those scenes when they're just there, sort of talking in the Mandalorian. I was like, dude, just give me like a 3 hour of them just sitting down
That's
over,
it.
over some blue milk, just
Yeah,
reminiscing about like
There you go.
telling Anakin stories. Oh, dude, like I am
yeah,
all for it. I don't
That's
even
it.
care if there's no
yeah.
background, like if there's a green screen. Just sit him down, write some dialogue for them. I'll watch it and then
I'm all in.
rewatch it. Yeah, I'm all there. I just wanna,
Just
like
just him telling her like, "Oh yes, I was in the X-wing and I
exactly.
just turned off the targeting system. I don't know what came
Yeah,
over me. I turned it off. I took a shot. I went through the hole, and
and
Death Star went kaboom." And she's like,
yeah,
"No, you turned off the targeting
and
system." Yeah,
well,
I
and
would
her
love that.
going, well, like your dad when he was freaking 9, hopped over on a Naboo starfighter, crashed into a hangar bay, of a control droid, ship, and
Yeah.
blew it up, like that kind of stuff. I'm
Her
like, dude, like,
telling dad
oh
stories
man,
too.
exactly,
Me and
yeah,
your dad were in the trenches in the Clone Wars,
exactly, yeah.
and
Oh man, and your dad, he hated sand, and I don't know why he put you on that sand planet. Like, just stuff like that, dude. Like,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like, dude, I am all in. Like,
he,
that would be
he he
amazing.
caught me with death sticks in my drawer,
exactly.
and I was grounded.
yeah,
I would
yeah,
love
yeah.
it. Legacy
Oh
Nerd
man,
says, "I'm pretty sure whatever visual media Filoni makes overrules any prior canon books."
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I
wouldn't
mean,
doubt it.
it the rule right now is that anything published, comic book, video game, novel is canon, right? That's the new order under Disney. But I agree completely. The visual media, the movies, the TV shows, the animated or otherwise, that's what people are really watching, right? Like that's the grand majority of where people are taking their Star Wars from. Honestly, I mean, I have to say it: the comic book readers and the novel readers are the minority, when it comes to those numbers. So if somebody's got to, retcon something, um, I agree. The visual media is going to win, and they've done it already with Mandalorian, right? For Mas Pelgo, right? It used to be in the novel. It used to be Freetown, where Cobb Band is sheriff. But they basically stuck to everything else. So I'm like, name of the town doesn't really bother me that they changed that. And same thing as I mentioned before, I haven't even read the novel for Ahsoka, and I know that they deal with the things that happened during and after Order 66. Uh, but I can't say that I bumped into an Inquisitor should not have shown up at all at this point in the story, right? Like I was like, dude, I am all for it, and it makes sense. And that fire, like behind them when they were fighting, dude, that thing was gorgeous. I paused the scene, and that fire looks amazing, dude. Like again, they've really polished the animation. They've done a really really good job with the animation.
Except for episode 1.
Yeah, barring a yeah, look at that,
That
man,
fire and that Inquisitor.
dude. Oh
I want
man,
to know his name. Like
yeah,
they don't have him listed as anything else but Inquisitor, and I'm like, I need to know what they call this dude. It's got to be something dope because he looks badass.
yeah. I'm trying to think which brother or sister number we haven't seen yet, but I think we've got them basically all.
There you go. I'm down. That was our discussion on Tales of the Jedi. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you thought about Tales of the Jedi. Um, which set of 3 episodes did you resonate did you or resonated with you more or did you like more? The Ahsoka episodes, the Master Dooku episodes. Let us know in the chat below, or if you're listening to this on podcast form, you can always email us on the contact page of our website at www.countdowntothegeekcast.com. We had this discussion last week. Somebody was asking why I don't really need Star Wars movies. I'm like, because we're getting so much great Star Wars content without the movies. Like, why spoil it with some mediocre Star Wars movies? We're doing so good right now. We're eating so well right now. Brett says still waiting for the Bad Batch to appear in the Mandalorian, Boba Fett, or the Ahsoka series. That's if they make it that far, right? I mean, there's always that possibility. I
Well,
think.
accelerated growth. Mandalorian might be.
Well, we have the Bad Batch is going to premiere. I want to say January 4th. I may be wrong on that. I think it's January 4th, and it's looking like Mando season 3 will premiere probably like mid February, early March.
Yeah,
And
they
so
said February.
there's a potential handoff that can happen there. So I wouldn't not hold your breath on maybe some Bad Batch Mando experience,
Yeah,
maybe
be
from
cool.
straight digital to live action.
Legacy Nerd says that would be cool. I wonder if we get Rex. We've been promised Rex or rumored to get Rex for like I feel like a couple of years now.
Yeah,
Um, and I did anyone ever confirm that the one clone we did see before wasn't Rex? That's always a possibility.
Oh, you
There
mean the
was
yeah.
one in
one
Kenobi?
clone that we've seen, yeah, in
I think
Kenobi.
Yeah.
I think it was just supposed to be you know, a member of the 501st, but not one of the commanders.
The lucky
Or
part, well, Rex would have recognized Kenobi. I think that's why
yeah,
we know that that's not the case. But they have a little bit of plot armor there because they're all clones, so they
right.
really just need the
Mm.
same actor,
Oh
and
yeah,
they could tease Rex for as long as they want to tease Rex
What a
and
gig! It's
use the
great
same
for
actor.
Tamara
Yeah.
Morrison. Just
dude.
like,
Tamara
hey,
Morrison. Yeah.
we need
Right
some
now it's like,
clones, baby. All right, I'm
now
there.
you want me back? It's like, oh, now it's gonna cost you guys. Like, you want me for Boba, you want me for Cody, you want me for Rex. Like, I'm all for it, but
And if
you
we
know,
ever get a live action Bad Batch, they have to change him in certain ways to fit these different character bodies. They're not all just, the similar build types and everything else. So that will
right?
be
That's gonna be
extremely
interesting.
interesting how they do that.
Yeah,
Legacy Nerd says, I texted Kenobi right after I watched it. LOL. It was exciting.
yeah, dude. He's like, what?
Brett says, maybe we'll see Omega in one of those series. Where is Omega? That would be interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see. Legacy Nerd says Rex dyes his hair blonde when he was young. Is that right?
Who didn't?
Right.
Who
I mean,
didn't? We all did that when we were young.
thank you,
Fantastic.
Slim Shady.
We're gonna keep we're gonna keep moving on this Star Wars train, and we're gonna head on over to Andor. And I know this is not this past week's, but the week before. We'll try and get through this one really quickly. I think that'll be easy because not a whole lot happened. Sort of a not a filler episode, but sort of a stepping stone, if you will. What's going on?
Because you just like summed up the whole series.
Pretty. Oh, come on, come on. Andor, episode 7, title of the announcement. Real quick summary. Here we go. Word of the garrison getting robbed has been communicated across the galaxy. The ISB is taking drastic measures to determine who is involved. It appears Luthen was alone in this plan, as Mon Mothma is not entirely happy that he has outed their network. Lines get blurred as orders are for Vel to find and kill Cassian, who could potentially be a risk to the rebellion if he's captured. Castian heads home and asks his ma to flee the planet. She refuses and said she's inspired by the Aldani event to fight back against the Empire. Trouble in Paradise, as Castian, who has fled to Niamos, aka Miami, South Beach, gets confused for a criminal and is charged for a crime and is sentenced to 6 years. Also, shout out to our first K2SO sighting. That was pretty dope on the beach. You know what? I'm also going to just read the summary of episode 8, Narkina 5. We catch up with Cassian, who was arrested and is now being transported to Narkina 5, a hard labor factory facility. Enter Kino Loy, who's played by Andy Serkis, friend of the show, by the way, manager for Cassian production floor, and motivates his labor force to work hard, or lest they get fried. Mon Mothma is having a harder time moving money as restrictions from the Empire get tighter. Bix Colleen makes a call in search of Cassian, but that may have tipped off the wrong people, and the episode ends with her being captured and most likely tortured. And we also got a Saul Guerrero sighting. So, putting all those pieces together, all that connective tissue. Maddie B, these two episodes back to back, really just all about Cassian can't catch a break, and getting arrested for the wrong reasons. But this is definitely going to be leading to something more. But Your thoughts about these two episodes?
The first episode was kind of like you said. It was just him trying to get out of there. I relate these. These both of these episodes are kind of like a couple of scenes in the Matrix. So like this one, he's realizes something's wrong. He really wants to get out of there. No one around him believes him, including the person he's most cares about. She won't leave because she wants to stand for the rebellion. Cassian doesn't stand for anything. He just has to get out of here. And then he gets his ass caught after hooking up with some chick in some hotel room, and then he gets sentenced to 6 years. Okay, that's what happened in that episode. That's it. And then episode 8 is Neo wakes up on the Nebuchadnezzar, and now we're doing this whole this is how we do things. It's like the episode is very reminiscent of that sort of part through the Matrix, and I just thought it was okay. Like I don't really know what we're really learning here. One thing that I thought that it did provide to Cassian for me was him really taking notice, and you can see in certain scenes he's taking notice of their production line and how they're being efficient, which might be some strategies and lessons he helps with the rebellion later. I'm not sure, um, but again, the episode just kind of, I don't know. It didn't really do anything for me. I know where the story ends up, so I don't know how to be invested in it.
I will tell you one thing. It is clear that I mentioned in my summary, lines are getting blurry. Um, Luthen, he understands, or at least in his mind, nothing changes without first getting worse. And so he's willing to put the entire galaxy under the thumb of the Empire just so they can get somewhere. And so he's willing to make thousands or maybe millions suffer. As we can see, they're like just rounding up Cassian and others and throwing them on these long sentences for nothing. But Luthen's willing to do that. He's willing to break some eggs to make an omelet. And it's is that really the good guy? Is he really, trying to maintain some moral integrity here on the rebellion side? No, he's just willing to do whatever it takes, and eventually we know it works out. But we're really starting to see that there's a lot that was risked, there's a lot that was um, sacrificed, and not just for the greater good, but sacrifice maybe without merit or not justifiable in that regard. It's great. We talk about Tales of the Jedi showing us two sides of the story. Andor's doing the same. The rebellion, not always doing the thing that you thought was right. And so I think that's a very interesting dynamic, is that we're learning from what they're doing. General Kenobi, your thoughts on these two episodes, Senor?
Sure. So episode 7, Andor just keeps trying to outrun the rebellion, right? He's like, I'm done with this, guys. I got my money. Let's get out. Goes home, tells his mom, pack your bags, let's go. And she's like, yeah, about that, I'm not leaving because I'm kind of a rebel now. She's like, I am the chapter president of the rebellion here. So, I can't leave. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I just went through hell, right, to get some money for us to bail. And ironic, of course, that the one job he pulled is what inspired her to stay. Okay. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and say bye to everybody, and I'm out. Like, I am done. Um, he leaves. He's on Miami Beach with this rando chick who needs whatever from the 7-Eleven, and he's just walking down the street, and he only really sees like rebels running, which, I mean, they could have been just mischievous teenagers for all we know.
Right. That's
And
that's
he
all I thought they
gets,
were.
yeah, that's, I mean, and then sure enough, he gets bumped into a short trooper, who, by the way, is the one and only Sam Witwer, uh,
Yeah.
under, yeah, our good old Star Killer and Maul from Clone Wars, well, and Rebels. But and he's like, whoa, he's like, why are you running? He's like, I wasn't running. He's like, are you in it? He's like, in what? He's like, I don't. He's like, you talk back to me. He's like, what is going on? Like I just wanted to get some some like whatever, some sparkling water, whatever the hell he was gonna go pick up for the chick at the 7-Eleven that's right there. Like I can see it from here. And we get, the KX series droid, picks him up, all of that. And so yeah, sure enough, he is hardly, like very harshly, sorry, punished for a crime he did not commit. However, he was, instrumental in the Empire cranking up the heat with the sentences, right? So it's kind of like, indirectly, you sort of reaping what you saw in a way. Um, and even the judge says it, right? Like, this used to be a 6-month sentence. Now, boom, 6 years, go away. He's like, wait, what? He's like, what just happened? Um, so that the Cassian part was okay, but I've been enjoying the Mon Mothma, like, like the tension at home type of thing. I'm like, man, like this lady has it rough. She's trying to do the right thing, right, by sort of the right means. She realizes, of course, that that's not going to happen. She will not be effective in the Senate. She will not be, affected, or effective just by doing charity work and that stuff. She's like, okay, well, now I got to take it a step further. But like you said, that means, sacrificing a lot. And it's fairly obvious, at least up to this point, that at least the husband is not in on it. And I know she said it to Luthen, but for his, demeanor, and he's just cruising along. He's like, man, I I got me a sugar mama. I'm good. Like, I'm just living it up in Coruscant, drinking whatever, squeegees. Um, and I'm just trying to enjoy myself. And he's like, I don't know why you have to be so uptight, right, about it. While, of course, she's carrying the weight of the galaxy, like, with her,
Yeah.
basically. So I've been enjoying that. I think there's something going on with the daughter. She always looks like she's nervous and trying to run away. Like, every scene that we
Ooh.
get her, it's like, oh, can I please be excused? I gotta go. And nice meeting you, whatever. And she runs off. So I think there's something going on there. Now I don't know if it's just, like, teenage drama, or she's like more into it, right? Like, she's an informant for the Empire or something like that. Um, but I think there's something there.
Well,
Saw
maybe for
Guerrero.
the rebellion.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be funny if it turns out to be she's part of a rebel cell,
Yeah.
and again, compartmentalization, right? So not even Mon Mothma knows, like she didn't know about the Aldani job, apparently.
Yep. Neither did Saul
So
Guerrera.
exactly, neither did Saw Gerrera. So it just goes to show you, right? Like, they're at a stage where, even though I think they dropped the name already of Rebel Alliance, they're not much of an alliance, right? They're sort of, pockets of resistance right now. Rebel cells, just like we saw in Rebels at the beginning. Um, but yeah, so that I thought it was funny the way they handled, Andor stories, like, man can't catch a break. And then in episode 8, the other one that I will mention is, Melshi. He met Melshi in the production line. He's the, like, the captain of the rebel soldiers that they take to the beach, right? That they go along with the mission, the suicide mission. So he's sort of like the captain of that company. And it is the same actor. So I thought that was cool. I was like, okay, well, they met at the joint.
That
So
is
now we know.
awesome.
Yeah. But
Um,
yes, Andy Serkis. I mean, that was crazy to see him, man. Like, and I'm like, really, like, we can't use him for something better. Like, come on.
he probably didn't have a lot of time. He was just walking down the
Yeah,
hall. Andy, get in here. Andy,
yeah,
come on. Legacy Nerd says Circus keeps getting crap roles
yeah.
in Star
There you
Wars.
go.
Brett says, how jacked up would it be if Cassian was making parts for the Death Star in that prison? Hey, listen, I was actually going to ask that to General Kenobi. These parts look like hinges of some sort.
Yeah.
They kind of flex in certain arms, and so I'm thinking, are these part of a like a TIE fighter or a part of a ship? Have you seen these parts? There's no way they're putting this in here for someone to not notice.
Right, right. No, I don't know about a ship. The What I was thinking about was the some of the joints on the AT-AT. Uh,
Mm,
because what you said, right? They look like like they have a certain degree of movement, yet
Yep.
they're obviously very big, and they seem like a simple part. So I would think that they might be, part of a like a bigger assembly for getting the legs to move or the neck or something. That's what I was, thinking about, because there's not a whole lot of electronics in them. That they just seem to be a lot more like mechanical assembly. Um, so, and I don't know that a ship would carry that heavy of a part, if it's not, one of the cruisers or something like that. Um, but yeah, so it's definitely something, like you said, they spend way too much time on it. It'd be cool to, later down the road they're fighting something, right? And Andrew is like, oh yeah, if you just hit it in this one crappy joint that I built, the whole thing comes down, right?
Well, there was a
Uh,
specific scene where it said the peg got stuck.
Yeah,
The peg
the
got
pin.
caught.
Yeah.
The pen, yeah. And so he's like, okay. And I agree with you there. I think we'll see that mechanical knowledge come into use
yeah.
at some point later.
Legacy Nerd says Starkiller also played Doomsday in Smallville. I didn't get
Oh
that
yeah,
far, but that's pretty interesting.
yeah.
And then
You're right.
Brett says, I've heard several people say it looks like the base of the Imperial probe droids
Probe droids, yeah.
that the legs attach to. Interesting.
Hmm.
I gotta look that up.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they
Um,
look more cogged to me.
yeah, it didn't look like it turned. It looked like it was fixated, but that it had arms that would bend 45 or some degrees.
Right.
It would be interesting if we're actually writing the story with the daughter. So the daughter is part of a cell, right? Unbeknownst to her parents. I bet you the dad finds out, and the
Yeah.
dad just like, what do? We got to turn her in.
Yeah.
We can't go against the Empire. And that's when my mom was like, she's got to do something. Does she kill the husband because he's willing
Yeah.
to turn in the daughter? And she's gonna have to be like, I'm part of it too. Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
do something. You can take our side or the Empire side. That would be interesting. That would be pretty intense if that was to happen.
Yeah.
The other thing is Luthen. Luthen strikes me as a very interesting character. I am wondering, and look, this sounds stupid and far fetched. He looks so much like Senator Palpatine in certain angles when he's got the hair, the fake, wig on, and he's so willing to do whatever is necessary for his cause. I wouldn't be surprised if like he's somehow a distant relative or somehow knows of Palpatine and they're like fighting against one another. As I said, far fetched completely, but it's just interesting that they got Stellan Skarsgård to play
Yeah.
Luthen when he looks so much like Ian McDermott.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
interesting.
like that. Yeah.
So I
I kind
wouldn't
of like
be,
it that we at least we were initially presented that he's the leader, right, of the rebellion.
yeah.
But his assistant secretary, like, she keeps like ordering him around, like he's like, whoa, whoa, like, turn that thing down, like, shut it off completely, don't answer, don't talk to this, don't talk to that. Like, I'm like, well, is he just a front? Like, is he the actual, like, um the decoy, right? And the assistant is the one that's actually like pulling the strings. Like, I don't know, it's just one of those things that gets you, uh like you said, it might be far-fetched, but it'd be kind of cool if that ended up being the case.
Or they're just husband and wife,
Yeah,
and even if you're the leader or so, you're taking your
you're
wife's
still,
orders
oh yeah,
no matter what.
exactly.
You're still
Hey,
number two in that
there's always
scenario.
there's always high command.
Legacy Nerd says, looks like it is part of a power grid, and they talk about kyber crystals in the show. Hmm. In this episode, or I know they talked about it before.
Yeah, they talked about
I
it
think he's
before.
leading on to it being part of a power grid of the Death Star that shoots the laser, which was they were taken out to begin with. So,
Right,
uh,
yeah, it could be.
but yeah, Kyber is a huge thing in this, and I like that being a part of the politics in the Star Wars universe because
Yeah.
obviously the Empire is gathering it up as quickly as they can, and then that obviously makes it valuable
Oh yeah.
on the street, and so I like that being a part of it. I like those past episodes of Skeen when he was like, "This is worth 30K."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love the Kyber, and it was heavy in Rogue One too.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that
yeah.
was kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, I just love when he talked about, it was carved up to basically signify the defeat of the Rakatan Empire. I
Yeah,
was like, well, they went deep cuts with that one. Like
yeah,
that one line,
yeah. There's
had me like, whoa, like are
heavy
they
cut.
really? Yeah, like if they're making them canon, like I'm all in. Like that's
Well,
it.
they have this big plethora of things to pull
Yeah,
from.
oh
They
yeah,
could just decide what's canon. Like they were
exactly,
like, okay, well, Legend Star Wars isn't canon anymore, but that just means we have this big, deep pool of things to dig from, and then we can make it canon whenever we decide we want to.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, just like Jester Merrill, right? With the in Mando, and then all of a sudden those comic books and stuff just shut up
Now
in
the
price.
now the canon, yeah.
Exactly.
I love that we have no idea what these parts are for, and that everybody's theorizing what they could possibly be.
It could be brand new
Everything
tech.
from
It
Yeah.
could be
it could
something
be,
yeah.
but this is Filoni we're talking about, right? And so everything has a purpose, everything has a reason. I mean, Filoni's probably a producer on this, maybe, but he's not like the writer for it.
Him
So
manufacturing
maybe
it, learning how it works, the pen misplacement is going to come
Yeah.
back to us.
all
Right.
gonna come back. I love it. I love it. Somebody I read online. Somebody thought that there's no point to these parts. They put them together and then they go off. They get taken apart and then they
And
just keep
they, yeah,
going in
I
a
was thinking
circle.
about that because some of the scenes made me think of George Lucas's movie, right? The first one, THX 1138, where he's sort of wearing also the white, and stuff like that. So I thought it was sort of a nod to that, the way they looked in the prison. But yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, how they say there's like what, 7 levels, I think, and like what
Seven
is it?
levels of hell.
Yeah, and like 7 assembly lines, blah blah. I was like, I bet you anything, like the next one over is like disassemble, send every single part down to level
Yeah.
one.
There's a sorting
Like
department.
yeah,
They
exactly.
sort,
Yeah.
and then
And then there's a shipping department, that just ships it up to the next floor over. And there's a label making department that just puts something like
but
stuff like
but
that, right? And it just
but did you
recirculates.
guys get
I love it.
Neo waking up on the Nebuchadnezzar vibes a little bit from the beginning of the episode? It felt a lot like that to me, where he's
Yeah,
sort of getting shown around the ship.
yeah, exactly. Especially when they're all confused, right? I mean, and they get sat down, they're magnetically handcuffed, right, like to the
Yeah.
chairs, just flown off. And I gotta say that I don't know if he was the warden. I guess he was like the captain of the security guards. Like he was eloquent, man. Like he had some good, like nice delivery lines.
Oh yeah.
And he basically saying like, "Oh, I'm sure you're wondering why we're not armed. But let me answer that right now." And he's like, like
And that's 1 out of 3.
yeah, exactly. He's like, "That's level 1 of 3." So
Yeah, they're wearing their Jordans to keep
yeah,
them off the ground.
I was like, "Oh, that's some pumps right there."
Somebody's already making those boots, whatever
Oh,
those
of course,
were.
yeah,
They kind of look like boots from the Mario Brothers movie back in the 90s, just a little less metallic. But yeah, I love when new ideas get sort of presented. And so having an entire prison where you're basically electrocuted if you're touching the ground. Like
yeah,
we don't need to control you any other way than just the entire floor is lava. That's what this
yeah,
is.
exactly.
The entire floor is lava. My daughter plays that now these days, and I play with her. The floor is lava. So yeah, no, no, no. I love this idea. It's new. It's inventive. It's such so efficient. I'm
Yep.
just like, wow, what a great idea. Somebody's gonna do this one day. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic idea that they present. I'm wondering how he gets out of the situation. There's no way he plays out his entire sentence. So do they escape? What movie was it? I feel like what's the movie with? I think it's Jean Claude Van Damme, and he cuts off his fingerprints to escape like a prison because they have to have their thumbprints. Somebody watching is gonna know what I'm talking about. He's in a prison where you have to present your thumb on a device to show that you're in your room. That way, ships and other transports can go in and out of this force field. And I think it's Jean Claude Van Damme. He cuts off his prints, and he makes a device to hit the print scanner, and he actually jumps from his window and swims through the force field before it closes. And I know this sounds so stupid, but look, it was the 90s. This was the kind of content we got in the '90s. It's
Yep.
not like that anymore.
I actually sort of
Uh,
vaguely remember that.
I'll see if I can look it up. Legacy Nerd says you get zapped every day if your team is the worst. I'm sure he's researching the movie right now. I might do that as well. It's a movie with Jean. I might even get the actor wrong. Jean Claude Van Damme, and he's having to escape this like high tech facility, and the only way he does is by cutting off his fingerprints and his thumbprints. Anyways, I kind of feel like that might happen. They might plan this grand escape.
Yeah.
How? Not really sure. But they also are pretty careless about like he's walking through these hallways and they just have all the shoes on these racks. I'm just like, all right, it does. You don't even secure these things. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see what
Exactly.
happens.
Yeah. I mean, when he was getting, sort of like processed, right? And the guy's like, "Hey, where's the other security guard?" He's like, "Oh, he's late. He's down in whatever, like tech." I was like, "Dude, are they already like replacing guards to save him, like to rescue him?" I thought they were gonna make a move right there. Um, but so it just looks suspicious, right? When the other guy's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry," like they were shorthanded down there. It's like, "Yeah, whatever. Like you were supposed to be here, but whatever." And they just move along. I'm like, suspicious. Uh, I know people were saying, oh, Luthen's gonna go talk to Saw Gerrera to bust him out, right? Um, for Saw Gerrera to bust Andor out. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Saw Gerrera is more of a let's blow stuff up, but in a military way, right? Like something that a target that has value. Um, maybe if he gets paid now that we see that he's not making, too much money, living in a crummy, caves and stuff.
I'm still looking for the Jean Claude Van Damme movie. It might be.
You gotta let it go. Oh
I don't
man,
know. Is it?
if
It
there's
might be.
ever been even one good John Claude Van Damme movie, I mean, Hard Target was pretty good. Maximum Risk was pretty good. I've watched
There's
this.
a bunch. There's a bunch in there.
Um, yeah,
We'll
I
come
can't
up with it
remember.
later.
I feel like I kind of know what you're talking about, but I can't remember. I was hoping if I looked at the filmography, I could see it. But
Fortress. Legacy Nerd says it was a movie called Fortress. It sounds
Could
right.
be. Yeah.
Uh, how crazy is it that Luthen can't? I don't know if he's doing this because he doesn't trust Mon Mothma, Saul Guerrera to tell them what he's planning, or is he doing it because they won't have the cojones, the balls to pull off something like this?
Yeah.
I mean, he's going rogue, Rogue
Yeah.
One. That's
Exactly.
he's Rogue One. He's going solo, planning
yeah, it
these
could just be cold
huge.
feet.
Yeah. That too.
He was all in until it started to work,
Yeah.
you know, and then once it started to work, it's like, oh,
Now
now
what?
he's pulling back a little bit. I see that from him. I think that scene with him and Saul was very interesting because Saul is, an all-in guy,
Yeah.
and then he's kind of having this interaction with Luthen where Luthen's kind of being like, he admits, I'm a coward. He wanted to be about the talk, and he wanted to be, super like liberal, I guess you would say, for the day. He wanted to like start this rebellion, and he decided once he got a little bit in that he wasn't really ready for the smoke yet. But he's already gotten everybody else on board, so now he feels pressure from one side and he feels fear from the other. I think it's an interesting pocket for him to be in.
Yeah.
I want to see that progression there.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think, like you said, Saw is sort of like the hammer, right? And um, and Mothma has to be sort of like the scalpel. Like she has to be, very exact in her movements. And Luthen is trying to figure out, which way am I going? Um, because, like you said, he doesn't want to risk his own neck. That's for sure. Um, but it's interesting that they don't talk to each other about like the important stuff, right? About where is the money coming from, what's the next move, all of that. Uh, they only, I guess, sort of keep in touch to see if they're still alive, and and to show up and sort of support each other, but not in any like big or super meaningful way yet.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they have to be super careful, of course. The ISB, cranking up the heat. I love that we finally saw you, Lauren, in live action. I thought that was really cool. Making the transition from the animated to live action. So I enjoyed that part.
We have to
Uh,
see the transition though of them moving past this like individual rebel cell phase to
yeah,
being a full scale rebellion pretty quick though. I mean, because I mean after Luke destroys the Death Star in A New Hope, we get the scene back, or even when they're planning for it before. There's a very clear and like rebel
yeah,
force here. You know, they
exactly.
have a leadership structure. There's all kinds of things going on, and so this transition actually has to happen
Yeah.
fairly quick.
I mean, it won't be that quick. It'll be season 2 for sure of Andor when they have to get to that place where they start having a militia, a rebel militia that can actually fight sometimes. Right
Yeah.
now it's just guerrilla
Well,
warfare,
they
really.
need one meaningful win,
Right.
and that's what's going to bind them all together. And I thought that that win was at the end of Rogue One, or when you know maybe that's what does it. Maybe we actually don't see another win that brings everybody together. Maybe that the ending of Rogue One was kind of that moment, and that's what we're leading to. But they're all waiting for one defining moment for everyone to stand up and say, "We believe."
Right.
And we're all in here, and so that something like that has to happen. I just don't know if it will in this series because I think that is the sacrifice that they all made at the end of Rogue One. But we'll see.
Yeah, because even in Rebels, I remember the end of season 3, I think, when General Dodonna, his fleet, he had like 5 ships, right? His fleet assembles with the Phoenix, cell, and they're like, yeah, this is like the first time like two cells are gonna join and like actually strike, like not just defend or run away. Like we're actually planning a military attack against, a military installation. So this is gonna be the first time, this is gonna be, our declaration of like war, like at the first move, and then Thrawn shows up and like annihilates them, right? Pretty much. So that didn't happen. So again, I agree that it would be really awesome to see something like that, but that actually is successful, and then we see, oh, okay, um, it's gonna be that turning point.
Yeah, absolutely. Brett's in the chat saying if they show Luthen early on completely changing his appearance, I think that's important, and it shows that he plays different roles with different people, not necessarily to manipulate, but to get specific jobs done. He talks to Mon Mothma in a way that it cut off the rest of it. My bad. Yeah, talks to Mon Mothma in a way that gets her to do what is necessary, and he does the same with Saul Guerrera. Yeah, absolutely. He's the most intriguing character to me.
Yeah,
How far is he willing to go? Is he willing to give up some rebel cells in order to make sure that he's not compromised? And
right.
yet, he's probably going to be the one that gets on the ISB's radar because they have my girl Bix, and she's
Yeah,
going to be forced to talk. And what does she know really? Probably not much, but at least she'll probably give description, a name, something that might
yeah,
be somewhat helpful to the ISB. So it could be the clock ticking for Luthen at this point. That would be interesting to see. I mean, we don't see him in future Rogue One movie, so
right.
Luthen probably maybe doesn't make it outside of season 1, and maybe that's what motivates Cassian Andor to really take up the cause because he's still not motivated to join this rebel fight, and yet by the time we see him in Rogue One, he's waving the flag, on the front lines, doing what is necessary. Also, is his sister ever going to get found? Is that something that we're just going to lose and forget about? I thought that was an interesting story, plot, subplot, if you will. So I hope they do something with that. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you thought about Andor, episode 7, episode 8. Let us know in the comments. If you're listening to this on the podcast version of the Geekcast, you can always email us on the contact page of our website at www.geekcast.com. geek.countdown.geekcast.com. I'm going to do something I haven't done in a while. It's called Geekcast Rapid Fire. That's where I drop three, four headlines of things that are happening in the geek universe this week. And then I'm going to ask these gentlemen which of these stories sort of they are most interested about hearing. Go ahead and share my screen here. And there's plenty of things to talk about. Number one, Christine Milati has been cast as Sophia Falcone in the Penguin series for HBO Max alongside Colin Farrell. So she'll have a pretty big role in that one. Happy Halloween, everybody. A24, yes, I said that studio, A24, is producing a Friday the 13th prequel series. This will go to the Peacock streaming service and will be titled Crystal Lake. I always get this wrong, but Yahya Abdul Mateen II will play Wonder Man in the Marvel series for Disney Plus. For those of you asking, yes, in the Ultimate Comics, Wonder Man is African American and he's much larger in that version, so that's probably what they're going for. Um, we'll talk about this on Wednesday, tomorrow. But the Ghostbusters VR game has been titled Rise of the Ghost Lord and will have a
Wow.
release date in 2023. It will be for the Oculus Quest, which I have. I am excited.
Ooh.
I'm ready to roll. More to come tomorrow. And lastly, Marvel and EA have announced a multi title collaboration to develop what I'm hearing three um, video games. The first one, which will focus on Iron Man. So, rapid fire, all those items right there. Maddie B, we'll start with you. Which of those four or five stories outside of the Ghostbusters one, because I know you already, outside of the Ghostbuster one, which one are you most excited to hear about?
Marvel EA, as long as it doesn't get scrapped before it finishes developing, which seems to happen to everything that I ever get excited about ever. But
I was gonna say.
Other than Spider Man, we don't have an open world superhero. Like, let me just be this character in the world out here. We don't have anything. Spider Man does a great job with it. Don't get me wrong, but I want to play something else. So hopefully that's what's in the works there. And anytime a good actor or actress gets put onto a Matt Reeves project for Batman, I am all in for. So those two, I'm definitely the most excited about.
General
Yeah.
Kenobi, which story are you most excited about?
Well, I just gotta say, on the for the penguin, I just saw a first comment, hashtag how I met the penguin, how I met your penguin. That
Mhm.
Yeah,
that got me. That got
that's
me.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
I don't know what. So what is the Friday 13th prequel? Is it the mom? Then I,
It shouldn't be right
I'm a
because
little
there'd
bit
be a
confused
lot
on that
of
one.
there would be a lot of upset people.
Yeah, I mean, I
It shouldn't be just about Mrs. Voorhees or Miss Voorhees, but we'll see what happens.
yeah.
Prequel series, maybe it's I don't know why they call it a prequel series,
Yeah, that's that threw me off honestly, but excited about Yahya Abdul II. Man, he's racking up the superhero credit. I mean, he
right?
was, or he is still Black Manta, right?
Yep,
And he was in the Watchmen series, which is insane. That thing is amazing.
loved it.
So if he locks down, a Marvel role, I mean, that's just about the trifecta right there. So
Now
good
all he
good
needs is
job on
a
him.
Star Wars role.
Right? I mean, yeah, he's got the superhero realm down. So, yeah, why not?
I'm down. Make it happen. Yeah, yeah. Make
Yeah.
it happen, buddy. Awesome, great Star Wars focused episode, and I'm excited because next week when we return, we'll keep talking about Andor, but we're also going to throw in a show that we're very familiar with, DC's Titans, which starts in 3 days, 2 days. I think it starts on Thursday.
It looks good. It looks
You know
good.
what? It looks good every year, and I am still not. I am still waiting for them
Yeah,
to reach their potential. It's
agreed.
been rough, and I'm a massive Nightwing fan. And so yes, they need to hurry up and get this right. This is their fourth season. This is their fourth season, and they still are just stumbling through these things. I can't believe like how we're this far along. I can't believe it's still on the air and it's not been anywhere near its potential. Titans, I
I
love
still
you.
can't wait.
Please
I
get good.
still can't wait. I still can't wait. Are you gonna be there with bells on premiere day?
You say I love everything, and yet if you go back and listen to all my Titans recaps,
No,
they're
I'm
all
saying
just crazy
yeah,
bad.
but you still love it. You're gonna be there premiere day with bells on.
I have to watch it. I have to watch it. I
I'm gonna
have to
be there
watch
with
it.
bells on too. That's all I'm saying.
There you
I'm gonna
go.
be very excited to watch it.
Very
Lots more
nice.
in store. Lots more coming up. Be sure to catch the Ghost Heads Radio stream tomorrow night, 9ish o'clock, and then be sure to come back on Thursday night for the WrestleCast. A lot of really cool things in the works over with the WrestleCast. I can't say anything yet. I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say we've been talking to the right people and some big things are happening. So some really big things are happening, and I'm very excited. So if you want to get caught up with the WrestleCast, join them Thursday night. Brett's in the chat saying, "Great show, guys. Have a good night. You as well, sir." Kenobi knows the Titans joke with Hey Archer. There's a Titans joke with Hey Archer.
Yeah, so he basically became friends with another guy just over watching Titans because they were like the only two guys watching it episode by episode on YouTube.
Oh,
Like everybody else just dropped it. Like it was just too much.
and then Joe says, "I will send
Oh
99 stars
snap!
if Manny gives a booty shake." There you go,
Done deal.
99 stars on the way.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for watching. It's been an amazing month of October that we just wrapped up. So many interviews. Maddie just talked to the most recent Michael Myers from the David Gordon Green
It's
trilogy.
awesome.
Go check out that interview that's currently up on our TikTok page, and I'll throw it up on our Instagram tonight.
It's on our Facebook
Um,
too.
yeah, absolutely. So check that out. Thanks again for watching. Lots more to come. For the Geekcast, my name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me as always is my partner in crime, the one and only Matty B.
Crushed cans, crushed takes.
And making his return to the Geekcast, the one and only General Kenobi. General, where can they find you?
Yeah, guys. So, YouTube channel called General Kenobi's Bunker, currently putting out a series of reviews for Tales of the Jedi. You know, a little bit more in depth for each episode. So, hopefully, you can check that out. Also, Instagram, same thing, General Kenobi's Bunker, and TikTok as well.
Go check him out. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
We'll see you.